If you've ever spent any time on a highway, you've seen them, these massive rolling metal cylinders, and they look so different from the regular box trucks they're sharing the road with. It's a design that's so common, we'd barely even think about it. But that specific shape, it's one of the most important safety features on our roads.
Okay, let's get right into it, because this is the big question. It seems logical, doesn't it? A rectangular tank would fit the frame better, you could probably squeeze more liquid in there, so why do we stick with the curve? Well, the answer is this really fascinating mix of physics, safety, and a little bit of history.
You see, this choice isn't about maximizing how much you can carry. It's all about managing some seriously immense forces. A rectangular tank holding liquid is, and I'm not exaggerating, a structural nightmare. The cylindrical shape, on the other hand, is a masterpiece of engineering designed to prevent a catastrophic failure.
To really get why, we've got to talk about the basic physics at play here. There are two major forces that are constantly trying to, tear these tanks apart and push them over: the internal pressure of the liquid and the wild dynamic weight of the liquid itself. So, imagine all that liquid inside, and it's constantly pushing outwards in every direction. In a boxy tank, all of that incredible force gets funneled directly into the corners. And every little bump in the road, every turn, it's like a tiny hammer hitting those weak spots from the inside over and over, causing metal fatigue that can lead to cracks and, leaks. But a curve? It solves this problem brilliantly. Because it has no corners, there's nowhere for the stress to build up. The pressure is spread out perfectly and evenly across the entire surface. No weak spots means the tank is just inherently stronger. It even means you can build it with lighter materials, which is a huge bonus. But dealing with pressure is only half the battle. Now you've got to deal with something called liquid surge. See, unlike solid cargo that you can tie down, liquid is a dynamic load. It moves. When the truck hits the brakes, all that liquid keeps moving forward, creating this massive, powerful wave that slams into the front of the tank.
And we are talking about some serious momentum here. A fully loaded tanker can weigh up to 80,000 pounds. Just let that sink in. When that much weight surges forward, it can literally push a stopped truck right into an intersection, or even worse, cause the driver to lose control completely.
So the key here is stability. To prevent a catastrophic rollover, you absolutely need the center of gravity, that's the point where all the weight is concentrated, to be as low as possible. A rectangular tank would hold its volume much higher up, making it dangerously top-heavy. The round shape, though, naturally keeps that massive weight closer to the ground, making the truck far, far more stable, especially in turns.
Okay, but here's where it gets even more interesting. While round is the general rule, the type of curve is actually precisely engineered for the specific cargo it's carrying. Not all curves are created equal. This is a really cool engineering trade-off. For stuff like gasoline or diesel, which are transported at normal atmospheric pressure, the biggest risk is a rollover. So they use an elliptical, kind of squashed circle shape. That gets the center of gravity even lower for maximum stability. But for high-pressure gases like propane, the biggest danger there is the tank actually bursting. For that, a perfect circle is much better because it distributes that intense internal pressure perfectly evenly. The cargo literally dictates the shape.
So, we know the exterior shape is the first line of defense against that powerful liquid surge. But to truly tame the wave, engineers hide a clever secret on the inside.
I mean, you have to ask, right? Is that round shape really the only thing keeping 80,000 pounds of liquid from sloshing around uncontrollably? The answer is no, not by a long shot. If you've ever felt that weird push from a half-full water bottle in your car, imagine that times 10,000. So how do they stop it? They use these things called baffles. Basically, they're internal dividers that act like wave breakers inside the tank, and they're absolutely critical for keeping the truck safe and under control. It's a simple idea, but it's totally brilliant. As that liquid wave surges forward, it hits a baffle. But instead of just slamming into a solid wall, the liquid is forced through all these small holes. This completely breaks up the wave and dissipates its energy, which dramatically reduces that forward push and makes the truck so much safer to drive.
Of course, there's a really interesting exception. Tankers that carry food, like milk, are often called smoothbore, meaning no baffles inside. And why would they do that? Well, baffles have all these nooks and crannies that are almost impossible to perfectly sanitize, so they leave them out. The trade-off is that these smoothbore trucks are notoriously difficult and dangerous to drive, and they require highly specialized training.
Now, this elegant design wasn't just invented overnight. It actually evolved out of sheer necessity over more than a century of trial and sometimes some pretty catastrophic errors.
I mean, in the very beginning, we just hauled fuel in leaky wooden barrels on horse-drawn wagons. Can you imagine? Then, in 1905, a subsidiary of Standard Oil introduced the first motorized tanker. But the real game changer was World War I. The massive demand for fuel forced the industry to standardize on these safer, much more durable cylindrical shapes. Then, after World War II, came another huge leap, the switch to aluminum, which is lighter, meaning bigger payloads, and, crucially, it doesn't spark if there's a rollover.
And that evolution is far from over. The same physics still apply, of course, but the technology being wrapped around that humble curve is getting a radical 21st century upgrade.
We're already seeing a big push towards ultra-lightweight composites to improve fuel economy. IoT sensors are giving dispatchers real-time data on liquid levels, which helps optimize routes and even prevent theft. And maybe the most exciting part, autonomous driving. An AI can accelerate and brake with perfect smoothness, which can naturally minimize that dangerous surge and make transport safer than ever before.
So, the next time you see one of these tankers rolling down the highway, you're not just looking at a truck. You're really looking at a rolling masterclass in physics, a perfectly functional design that's been tweaked and refined for over a century, all to manage incredible forces and keep all of us safe.
And this design is still adapting. As these tanks become smarter, lighter, and more connected, it really leaves us with one final big question. In the future, who, or maybe what, will ultimately be in the driver's seat?
Don't forget to like and subscribe for more How Meets History.